Now, every one of you is special to me. For many weeks, we walked together, we laughed together, we ate together, and campaigned hard together. Putting aside our political differences, actually I'm very glad that so many of you with different political affiliations came together and we work as a team.
Okay, we believe Mr. Yamami is about to make the results announcement.
Results for the presidential election 2011. Tan Cheng Bock, 737,128 votes. Tan Ji Se, 529,732 votes. Tony Tan Keng Yam, 744,397 votes. Tan Kin Lian, 103,931 votes. Rejected votes, 37,826. Total votes cast, 2,153,014. The local votes counted are conclusive of the results. Pursuant to Section 32, subsection 8D, paragraph A of the Presidential Elections Act, I declare Tony Tan Keng Yam as the candidate elected as the President of Singapore.
Looking at live pictures of very jubilant Tony Tan supporters at Toa Payoh Stadium.
Of course, we've just heard from the returning officer at the Elections Department, and he's just announced the name of Singapore's 7th President, Dr. Tony Tan.
That is a conclusive result. Dr. Tony Tan has won with 744,397 votes. 35.19% of the valid votes cast. And his closest contender was Dr. Tan Cheng Bock.
That's right. And Dr. Tan Cheng Bock garnered 737,128 votes, with 34.85% of the
difference between them of 7,269 votes means that the overseas votes will not materially change the result of this election. So therefore, the results are conclusive. It means that Dr. Tony Tan will be Singapore's 7th president and 3rd elected president. The Singapore presidential race is a first-past-the-post system.
Now, Dr. Tony Tan, of course, Singapore's next president, is going to speak.
What message you have for Singaporeans?
I'm extremely happy to be given this opportunity to serve Singapore and Singaporeans once again, now as the elected president. It has been a strenuous campaign. I will have my supporters are waiting for me at Toa Payoh Stadium, so I will have more to say when I reach Toa Payoh Stadium. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Tan. Thank you. Well, that were the initial words from Dr. Tony Tan Keng Yam, Singapore's president-elect. After the 2011 presidential election, Dr. Tony Tan is heading straight to the Toa Payoh Stadium, where his supporters are waiting for him. Dr. Tan came back here to the elections department twice to see through the recounting process, and now that the results are out, Dr. Tan is heading to the Toa Payoh Stadium to meet his supporters. Well, Dr. Tan, as we know, has been a former Deputy Prime Minister. He has held several cabinet positions, and that's one of the qualities which Dr. Tan has been emphasizing and talking about during the campaign period and the lead up to nomination day, as the steady hand which he describes himself, someone who has had the experience in government, someone who knows how the government works, someone who has worked in the Government Investment Corporation of Singapore, the GIC, which takes care of Singapore's reserves. And also, he has played an important role in ensuring that Singapore's reserves remain strong even during the economic crisis. So we will now head over to Toa Payoh Stadium and of course our studio to hear more about the analysis and of Dr. Tony Tan's victory in the presidential elections. Back to you.
All right. Thanks a lot for that, Ramesh. And we're looking now at live footage out of Toa Payoh Stadium. The earlier sleepy supporters now completely energized. You can tell some of them in Dr. Tony Tan's trademark purple election colour.
That's right. Definitely, they're understandably jubilant at the news, of course. And it's been a long night. It's 4:30. Let's just have a quick look at the numbers involved at this election. And that's Dr. Tony Tan there, President-elect. Of course, as I said, with 744,397 votes cast for him.
Let's look at his percentage share of the votes.
His closest contender was Dr. Tan Cheng Bock with 737,128 votes cast.
The difference between them, 7,269 votes. The margin, 0.34%.
It's a margin of about
0.34%.
0.34%, that's right.
Yes. Let's look at how the other two candidates did. How they have performed. Now, Mr. Tan Kin Lian had earlier said that he might lose his deposit, and it looks like he is right. He has 4.91% of the valid shares cast, and he needs actually 12.5% to retain his deposit of 48,000 Sing dollars.
Yeah, that's right. The $48,000 he will definitely lose with that 4.9%.
Mr. Tan Jee Se, though, gets to keep his.
Yes.
He's got 25.04%, so it looks like 1 in 4 of valid votes went to him. That's compared to 1 in 3 for both Tan Cheng Bock and Dr. Tan Cheng Bock and Dr. Tony Tan. Very close fight there. And like our analyst in studio has said, a very clean fight.
Okay, let's head down to Toa Payoh Stadium where Dr. Tony Tan's supporters are gathered. May?
Sharon and Mel, it didn't matter how long they were waiting. 6 hours was nothing to the supporters here. It didn't matter that it was kind of warm, and it didn't matter that some of them have gone without food or water, because these staunch supporters have been here waiting, and they were jubilant the minute they heard that the returning officer had announced that Dr. Tony Tan had become Singapore's next elected president. In fact, a lot of them from the stands, they were up there looking a little bit sleepy, but the minute they heard that, they rushed down onto the tracks over here and started shouting and chanting Tony Tan president. And so that is pretty much the culmination for the entire night, simply because they've been waiting anxiously. So even though there were recounts for the votes, it didn't matter to them, and it doesn't really matter in terms of how much he has separated himself from the second highest contender. Ultimately, that is what they're saying, Tony Tan president. So it's back to you guys in the studio.
Okay, thanks a lot for that.
Thanks, May.
Well, now, former Deputy Prime Minister Dr. Tony Tan will be Singapore's next elected president. Returning officer Yam Army made the announcement a short while ago.
For the presidential election 2011, Tan Cheng Bock, 737,128 votes. Tan Jee Se, 529,732 votes. Tony Tan Ken Yam, 744,397 votes. Tan Kin Lian, 103,931 votes. Rejected votes, 37,826. Total votes cast, 2,000,000 153,014. The local votes counted are conclusive of the results. Pursuant to Section 32, subsection 8D, paragraph A of the Presidential Elections Act, I declare Tony Tan Keng Yam as the candidate elected as the President of Singapore.
Let's have another look at the numbers once more. Dr. Tony Tan there, who secured 744,397 or 35.19% of the valid votes, winning by 7,269 votes, or that's about 0.34%.
Dr. Tan Cheng Bock got 737,128 votes, or 34.85%, while returning officer Yam Ami, as you saw in our recorded version just now, announced the results following a recount. He had allowed it as the difference in votes between the two candidates was not more than 2% of the total valid votes cast.
Now let's head to Jurong East Stadium to check in with the supporters of Dr. Tan Cheng Bock. Ho Yini has more. Ho Yini.
Yes, Sharon and Melissa, the mood here understandably quite somber. This is certainly something that they have been, the result that they have been waiting for the past many hours, although for many of them it's not the result they had hoped for. A few hours ago, the authorities here had already shut down the PA system, so they weren't able to get the results live. So earlier on, Mr. Philip Law, who is Dr. Tan Cheng Bock's media guy, went up on stage and announced the results to everyone, the number of votes that were won by Dr. Tony Tan and then by Dr. Tan Cheng Bock, as well as the percentage difference. And, these were greeted by loud cheers and loud applause. Many chants of Dr. Tan Cheng Bock's name. He then took to the stage and addressed his supporters again, thanked them for their patience, thanked them for being with him at every step of the way in this extremely intense campaign. And he said that, he also said that this will not be the end, and that they will all stick together as one family. Again, reiterated the message that this is quite a historic occasion. This is the first time that Singapore is seeing such an intense fight for the highest office of the land. And he says once again that he thanks his supporters for all that they've done. He thanks his family for the support that they've given him. So now the supporters are slowly moving back, leaving the stadium. We understand that Dr. Tan will be holding a news conference tomorrow afternoon, and I'm sure that tonight and tomorrow morning there will be plenty of post-mortem that will be carried out within that team. But I think for now it'll probably be a good time to get some rest. Back to you.
Thanks, Yini.
Okay, we turn now to Dr. Gillian Koh of the Institute of Policy Studies, who's been with us all night. Now, looking at the results